Greetings and salutations, everyone. This is Jason Bitbender Brink. Welcome to the Town Crush GYRI, Gary, Jerry chain AMA. We are here with the Doc Jarvis and Warren Marshall, the father of Town Crush. And this is going to be, generally speaking, an AMA where we're going to take questions from the Here and Now channel in our Discord at galagames.chat. So if you're interested, hop on over and get ready to ask some questions. But before we do that, how you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Doing good.
Good.
Just happy after yesterday.
Hey,
Yeah,
man, everything
totally.
seems to really be going well. So massive kudos to both of you. In the Twitter sphere, I have heard nothing but amazing things about Town Crush, Warren. Everyone says it's so smooth, so fresh, so clean. They absolutely love it. So very good job, man.
And it's really good to hear. It's so stressful coming up to a launch like that you keep polishing, and then you hope for the best. But this really did go well. I'm super
It
pleased.
went incredibly well, so polished and smooth. And on the back end, Doc, what you have created there with your team is really doing what it's supposed to do, is it not?
I would say so. I mean, the fact that some of the biggest comments are about barn doors not being structurally sound in the
That's
graphics shows that we're obviously not getting in the way. And people asking, oh, is this going to chain? I mean, if it was waiting for 15-minute confirmations like on Ethereum, you would know it's going to chain. So
yeah,
getting out of the
right.
way is kind of our role.
Perfect. And Warren, what's up with those barn doors? Can we do something about the barn doors? It's
Yes,
the diagonal members are not going in the right direction. Is that what the
yes, we can
complaint is?
probably address the barn doors. And the
Okay,
fact that it looks like a Union Jack was completely coincidental. That's not so kind of subtle, whatever.
That's awesome. I'm going to drop into the Here and Now channel and let's just see what everyone has to say. Hold on, I have to find the damn Here and Now channel. Our Discord has gotten a little bit out of control, guys. There's a lot of channels. There's a
Okay, is
lot of
my friend.
channels. What was that?
Control K, and then it'll let you just start typing in the name of the channel you want to go to.
Oh, I did not know that. I'm going to have to
That's
use
how I
that.
navigate.
Okay, so when Crush skins, Dark to Light would like to know.
Skins for the game?
Skins for the game. Everyone always wants skins, man.
That's an interesting idea. We had never talked about it, but wouldn't be that bad.
There you go.
I'm interested.
People are posting barn door pictures now. How is the chain holding up, Derek?
They are.
Good. I mean, I won't publicly say all the numbers.
So, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Never mind. Ignore my question then.
No, I'll give some numbers. What I'll say is that we didn't come close to the throughput we tested against. Orders of magnitude higher we tested against, and then when we did the drop, we hit a maximum of something like 10 per second transactions going through, which didn't come close to what we had tested.
What you're saying is we need more players. So what we're going to need is we're going to need every single person on this call and in the Discord and watching this on every channel to go get your friends to play Town Crush, because Derek Doc is having a little bit of a too easy time here, so we need to break this, because nothing was on fire when this launch happened. Nothing fell over, and so we basically need, I don't know, a few million players. So if you guys could arrange that, that would be great.
Yeah, actually, one funny story that I got from yesterday from the launch was we were all sitting in a huddle, as it was going live, and it went live. We pushed the button. There was a lot of hesitation about that. Pushed the button, it went out, and people started playing, and it got like 10, 15 minutes in, and somebody was like, "I'm bored." Because nothing was on fire, nothing fell over, there was no bugs being reported. It was just people happily playing, and it was like, okay, well, I guess we're done with the huddle then.
I was worried, because anytime I see like a huddle going on for a really long period of time, there's usually something happening.
Generally,
but yeah. Was very nice and smooth. Let's see. Yeah,
I can
one of the
go ahead.
go ahead. I was just going to say that one of the things that that is really notable to me is that this is what happens when we're able to really take our time. I know we had to push this back a little bit a couple times, but the time that everybody took to make sure that this was done right, especially as it's the chain is such a massively critical piece of so much of what we have going on. Being able to get that out and right is absolutely really, really important. So very, very, very well done. Warren, are there plans for some microtransactions in Candy Crush, and how will that potentially? Well, I'll leave the second part of that question out, but what about some microtransactions?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine so. That's kind of I think what we're testing out with the stars is you earn the currency, you spend the currency, you buy little power ups like the executioner. We can layer that stuff all day long, really. But I don't know what the official plan is, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, perfect. How do you guys feel about a play party at a set time, so we can get as many people as possible initiating transactions at that exact moment? What do you think of that, Doc? Would you be willing to put it up
I'm
against that?
I'm open to that. I mean, just knowing that if it falls over, that's kind of a win in some way because we know where the limits are.
Right.
I mean, that's what I was cringing at when we were launching it, thinking like I'm tagging 20,000 people in Discord, telling them to go hit it. And it turns out we just must not have that many gamers in Discord because we only had a few hundred come in at that announcement. So
Sounds like Dirk's calling out the Discord.
yeah, I mean, it is a gaming
Yeah.
Discord, and we announce a game, and people just trickle in. What's that about?
I wonder if we could do a some sort of this is ideating on the fly. Okay, this is flinging something at the wall and seeing if it sticks. Warren, tell me how you feel about this. How do you feel about having an NFT that gives you a certain number of executioners per game round or something like that, that we could potentially give out as a reward to people who participate in a test and initiate a certain number of transactions in a given hour-long period? How do you
I'm
feel about that?
I'm laughing because it's kind of funny. We sort of have that set up. That's kind of our test, and if our test we might end up doing.
Oh, well, there we go.
So I feel
wonder if
strongly in favor of it.
you feel strongly in favor of that awesome idea that you already had. That's good. That's good. That's
Yeah.
nice. That means that maybe I accidentally read the channel and absorbed that somehow. But it's also
No, honestly, we've never talked about it. That's just complete
Oh.
coincidence.
That's awesome. Well, that's I like that. I really like that. Um,
I'll add a little
how,
bit there to say that
please.
that's one of the struggles that we had. Like as you mentioned, we pushed it back a little bit when we were concerned about some of the performance, and we continue to polish the game. And you've got to draw the line somewhere. There's a lot of more features and ideas and things that we had in mind. As Warren just mentioned, the concept of an NFT based chicken is significantly done, but do we delay another week or another 2 weeks to get that out, or did we feel that we had enough for the test? And I think that we had more than enough for the test because the game that Warren put together was already so near a complete game. Of course, people want more levels. That it was
Right.
worth getting out and then seeing how it's received by the community.
I freaking love it, man. It's just so freaking nice and polished. But how do you feel about it would be a shame if this game was just something that existed only for testing purposes. It's so fun and so addictive. I don't see a way that we don't push this out for broader distribution. Does that sound fair?
It sounds completely fair. I mean, we have talked very seriously about just carrying it into a full game. So that is
Yeah.
definitely on the table.
Yeah, it's something that Happy Valley Beacon is asking about. for bringing the mobile casual gamers to Gala. I would love to see this, boxed up as an APK or something like that, so that people could, actually install it and run on their Androids. And all of the people who use Apple, like James, would have to just be sad and not play.
Well, I mean,
James is probably
I mean,
busy at
it's
Bitcoin Miami right now, so he's probably not hearing this. But I hope
can't
somebody
defend
tells him.
himself. No, honestly, I mean, we can export to native apps and stuff like that on various platforms, Android, iOS, all that stuff. It's just a matter of all the other stuff that goes around that, with Apple licensing and whatever else that entails. But it's not a far stretch, assuming the stars line up.
It's always about the stars, man. Okay, so we have a very important question for you, Warren, from Mr. K. And this is a question from me as well. He would like to know what products you use in your beard because it's just so awesome looking.
Frankly, honestly, this is all natural.
All natural, no products. There you go.
Nothing. That's why it looks a little scruffy on the edges because I don't take care of it.
Yeah, it's mine just keeps getting all foofy. It just keeps going outwards, and then I end up with this lion's mane thing that I have to shear off so I don't look like a hobo.
I
Okay,
see a couple of go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was good. If you see a question that you want to take, go for it.
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna hit a couple of these GYRI questions. So
Hit it, man.
Lusa has a lot of questions all in one. I'm only gonna touch a couple and then do a mini rant. So it is not proof of work. It's kind of proof of stake, kind of proof of authority, and we do plan to integrate the founders nodes in some way. We're still looking at the best way to do that, and it does scale through a combination of, if you want to call it sharding or data partitioning. And that's part of what we wanted to test here to see how an individual game performs on its own channel, or that's what our framework calls it, as a channel. Others would call it a subchain or a side chain or a parachain. But each game does get its own channel so that it can be somewhat insulated from others. Yes, there will be security. Yes, we are doing third-party audits. Yes, we are working on bridging. The thing I want to mention specifically is, what is the theoretical transactions per second? This is a really tough question, and it's tough because it indicates coming from a mindset of like Ethereum, where how many transactions can I get through, or Bitcoin, or how long is the confirmation time. The thing we're building on actually lets us define this to say, I want a block every second or every minute, or I want a block every 10 messages or 1,000 messages. So it's not like you can just compare two cars based on their max speed. You picture it a bit like, if I'm carrying cargo, sometimes a truck is great because I can load up lots of boxes and it moves a bit slower, but the net data transfer is bigger. If I've got, a courier item that I need to get somewhere very quickly, a Lamborghini might be pretty good, uh, as compared to a cargo truck. So that's more how our blockchain is. So which game needs how many transactions per second, how we partition the data, it all goes into the design, as opposed to the eventual consistency model of a lot of blockchains, where you can only guarantee consistency after a certain period of time and a certain number of confirmations. And that's really what limits how, or defines how quickly you can get data going through. So it's a very different thing. It's why I usually sidestep the what's the transactions per second, because it's not a great measure about, will this blockchain perform, which is really the question. Will I be able to play a game on this blockchain and not notice that I'm doing that? And I think the Town Crush test demonstrates that yes, you can play it on the blockchain and not feel it and have transparency and verifiable transactions.
Can you go into exactly how the game interacts with the chain a little bit? Like what is hitting the chain?
Yeah, basically anytime you see that little hourglass icon, it's hitting the chain. So that was a huge ad, like one of those polishing things that Warren mentioned we put on, that for us made it feel so much more real to see when it's doing it and how long it's taking. So creating a match, scoring a match, claiming lives on the 5-minute timer, buying more lives, buying chickens, spending chickens, all of that is on chain. Every time you click that button, it writes a transaction to chain, and you can see it in the block explorer going through.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, that a little spinny thing that pops up that only pops up if it's taken more than a second to hear back from the server. So often it is communicating, but it's happening fast enough we don't even have to put up the throbber. So it's really nice that way.
That is awesome. I love hearing exactly how all of this stuff, uh, excuse me, interacts with one another. Any other questions that you see that you would like to answer?
It's a question that I saw, and I actually got a couple DMs about this, about the game and some of the logic and if it's secure. There's a couple of areas that we know are, currently, well, let's just say exploitable on the client side, and it's not a limitation of the blockchain. It's what I mentioned before about how much of this do we get done before we allow it to be seen, before we let people play it. And again, the point of this was to stress the chain itself. And so if there is an edge case where the client can do something that's not blocked by the chain, it doesn't negate the test of how many transactions went through and how snappy was it and how did it handle the data load. And that's why we pushed it out with some of these things known. The cool thing, and it's what we initially discussed when the idea of a match 3 game was theorized, was this is in a way a perfect game for on-chain because you can prove whether or not cheating happened if you do a couple of specific things. So, for example, if every match has a seed that determines the randomness of the tiles being dropped, and if you keep track of the moves that the player did and you report the final score, you can replay that in a deterministic, verifiable way every time and know if a match was legitimate, if it was cheated, successful or not. And that can be done on chain if we felt like it, so that you don't have to really worry about the anti cheating, what the client says. The client can report whatever it wants, and the chain can kick it back saying, no, you didn't win that round. This is obviously not the case for something like spider tanks, right? Something like spider tanks, you're not going to be able to do all that logic and verifying on chain. So the things that you can and cannot prevent and how you do it in a game is always a back and forth battle. I think most game developers will tell you it's just an arms race of they're going to cheat this way and then we're going to block it that way. So being able to have the rounds verifiable is pretty interesting. To be able to take that load off, and it's not implemented yet, so that's why the client can do that. It can be implemented. If you look at the block explorer, you can see the data points have been put in, like the place to score to place the moves for the match, the place that stores the seed for the match, the place that shows the score that the client reported for the match. So all the pieces are there, just needs more implementation time.
That is awesome, man. You've really, like, you and your team have really knocked it out of the park with this. I am extremely pleased with this. Let's go ahead. You're gonna say something?
I was just going to agree that there's a team of people, multiple teams of people that put a lot of work in on this
Yeah.
to help us test this out and build this new structure that we're going to be able to use for more things to come. And I really think they did a great job.
No, I think that this is what has been created with Gary Chain, as it is known, will really fundamentally change blockchain gaming in an amazingly positive way. There is so much that can come from this, and this is the first step. So, when people keep asking questions like, when Gala Chain, all of these sorts of things, when Gary, the answer to that is now. This is in development. This is in production. You're seeing it. You're using it right now if you go play Town Crush, and there's a lot more coming there. There's a lot more coming.
Yeah, not to belabor the point, but there was like people have asked me a lot of questions about the game, about like, yeah, how does this work? How does this work? There's hardly anybody that actually mentions the chain because the chain is working so well that it's basically become invisible. It's just doing its thing, which is really cool. So it's on the blockchain. You don't even realize it's on the blockchain, and that to me just speaks to the quality of what's been done here. It's just
No, that's
fantastic.
super important. I mean, one of the examples that I use about early internet gaming, and Eric uses this as well, is the concept of TCP/IP, right? Like, you remember back in the day when you wanted to do some network gaming, you'd have to drag over your giant freaking monitor and your CRT, and set it up in some basement somewhere on some crap ass folding table, and get your TCP/IP connections all figured out in order to play whatever for a few hours while slamming Mountain Dew and Hot Pockets. This today, internet gaming makes that much easier. It's just a play now. You don't even recognize that it's going on in the background. This is exactly the way that blockchain is supposed to be in blockchain gaming. It should be ideally completely invisible to the user. You should just own your stuff. You should have access to stuff, and it should be yours. And you shouldn't have to ask questions of how it works and whether a transaction has taken place, because it should just happen automatically without your needing to worry about it. And so I really like that is what has been achieved.
Yeah, that's something I mentioned in the Discord yesterday. And I'll kind of say it again, that there's actually no database behind Town Crush except for the one that we have doing a double write on all the transactions that go through. So each time it hits the server and does something, it writes to chain and it writes to a database. And then we run scripts to confirm that it's all matching up. So your profile, the matches, your scores, it's all on chain. And that's kind of been our goal with how we make this next step into blockchain gaming, is to treat the blockchain more like a database, with the right amount of information. And I'm not going to say that the amount of information we're putting in for Townstar is the right amount, but we wanted to see what amount can we do and where are some of the limits, and build the design of some games around that to decide what goes on chain, what goes in a database, how does that scale over time.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Mr. K would like to know how the security testing is going and maybe what the next phase of all of this is. I know that we're doing rather substantial third-party audits, but do you have any other thoughts or comments that you'd like to offer on that, Doc?
Yeah, my main feedback is the bridge is the scariest thing. I think, as we can see, not just in like immediately recent news, but historically, bridges are a big weakness when you're trying to get things in between blockchains. And how do you do that and secure the assets and make sure that either doesn't get compromised and the assets lost, or that things are actually end up getting duplicated, so you have two copies of an item. That's like the worst case scenario for a bridge, is that somehow both items get unleashed on both chains that the bridge was intending to join together. So the bridge is something that we're definitely obviously having audited, because it is an Ethereum contract. I should say it's a Solidity contract that could be deployed to any EVM capable network. And yes, that's a huge risk area. It's getting audited. Might even do multiple audits. And then separately is our contract code itself, which we will also have audited and are doing internal reviews on. The plus about the chain that we're building as well is that the contracts can be adjusted with consensus. So you have a number of approving parties for any sort of contract change, and then you can change it, which means that if a vulnerability is found, it can be fixed. Whereas in an Ethereum contract, vulnerability is found and all the bad people go and exploit it, and there's not much you can do unless it's a plausible contract that you've pre-deployed with proxies in place to be able to change that stuff out. There's a lot of work that goes into being able to protect against those types of things in other blockchains, and that's one of the reasons we're using this tech stack, because it gives us that flexibility while still controlling it with consensus.
Sorry, I was muted. My bad. Yeah, no, I think that there will definitely be multiple layers of auditing and checking here. And I think at some point in time, I don't want to make promises on this, but at some point in time, I imagine we will be opening up some bug bounties and things like that as well, would be my guess. But no specific promises around that. Could you talk a little bit about the languages that are used in the smart contracts? Because I know that the way this is implemented is a little bit different than EVM stuff, if you would be interested in doing so, Doc.
Yeah, the part that I think is pretty cool is the framework itself, in a way, supports any language. You can actually run EVM contracts on our blockchain if you felt like it. It works on a concept of read-write sets, where every transaction reads some data and it writes some data. And the goal is that all of the peers or endorsers agree that I read this and I wrote this consensus. And which language you use to produce that read-write set of reading X and writing Y, it doesn't matter. So the SDKs natively support JavaScript, TypeScript, Java, and Go, and EVM, but you could write your own SDK for any language that reads a chain using gRPC, gets some data, and then writes some data. And as long as all the peers come up with the same result, it's fine.
That's pretty epic. That's pretty epic. Anything else that anyone has some questions on? See, do you see GYRI expanding beyond games and Gala's use case? Any thoughts on that? It's from CryptoBurry.
I think I would say yes. I mean, I think most of the things we're touching, including you look at Gala Music, is it has a chain element to it. Whether that's immediate or near future, I think each of our products may have a different timeline, but I think they're all going to have a chain element, and I think it makes sense to use something that's really flexible and fast. But we have to see each thing as it comes. But I think it's safe to say it will be chain based.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be chain elements to absolutely everything. Which kind of makes sense given that we are a blockchain gaming company, right? Emphasis on the gaming here. So what is the next step here?
From which side?
From either side, yes,
Go,
all
go-
sides.
Go for it, Warren.
You go first, Warren. Yeah.
All right. Next step for us is that we quickly discovered that 12 levels were not enough. So we're going to, it's one of the focuses we want to do is stuff to have a tool set that's available to edit levels, create levels, that kind of stuff. In the, as part of the process of growing this out to a full game, we're going to need tools like that. So that's kind of the next focus. In terms of the next thing that's public facing, I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but yeah, next step is tools. And then there's about 1,000 things I have on a text file somewhere that need to be added. So I'm going to just start chopping through all that.
You know what would be really fun is if you had this concept of Town Crush, and the further and further and further you got, like you started out in like Town Star Land, and the first like 25 levels were Town Star, and then you begin to cross over border into like Miranda's territory with a different tile
Yes.
set, and
That would be
then
amazing.
spider tanks, and so like once someone's gotten to like the grit or superior like 180th level or something like that, they're absolutely crushing it. And whole interesting range of NFTs could be introduced there. You have the executioner, you have like a spider tank that just shows up and lasers a few icons. Like you could
After a
have
while,
some-
you can start to cross-pollinate too. You got your games all mixed together, and by the end of it, it just becomes this bizarre mashup that somehow still works together.
I
bots in
like
there.
it. I like it. Well, obviously, you have to have box.
Yeah.
I think that would be super fun. Okay, how about you, Doc? What's next?
I don't know that we've got the exact priority set, but in my mind, what's next is, we've proven that this game works and that apparently it's wildly popular. So I think it deserves some people to work on it. But separately, we move back in a sense. We go back and start integrating the core pieces of like tokens on our platform and user profiles on the chain. And now that we've proven that we can do step 10, doing the previous steps to actually make it functional in a production environment, like the user accounts, the security audits, the bridging, all of these things, I think those are what's next. So proving out that we know that we can get to this end state is great, and now doing the work that actually gets us there in a smooth way is what we start working on.
Yeah, the way you worded that was
Nice.
kind of cool. How we like had steps between, but we're like, well, there's no time. Let's just jump to the bottom and get this thing out, and then we'll backtrack and put the other stuff in.
You can
good.
skip lots of things in testing environment.
Yeah, yeah, but actual production not always as easy. Welcome, by the way, Surfer Geek, for joining us for the first time today. And those of you who are listening elsewhere on YouTube or Twitch or anything like that, we are taking questions in our Discord at galagames.chat, and you are listening to an AMA with me, Jason Bitbender Brink, Doc Jarvis, and Warren Marshall about GYRI and Town Crush. Okay, and you're not too late, Patricia. It's okay. Go ahead and ask your questions. Anything that you're seeing that you would like to answer, Doc?
Yeah, I'm scrolling through right now. The question of, is GYRI running on a form of UTXO, I think is the question.
Yeah.
Right now, no. Right now it's using a more Ethereum style balances, but it's possible. I mean, we get to define the data structures, and we might find some places that we do choose to implement it as UTXO. So far, we've done it with balances, and it's working pretty well. I think at a later time we might dig into some more of the architectural designs of the chain and how that works and what it means. But the good thing is that we're not blocked in. It's not like the framework itself forces us to do one or the other. So we can start with one, and then if we decide, you know, this isn't scaling so well, or it doesn't fit this use case, we can use UTXO.
I'd also like to really briefly address a question here from where'd it go? Rockham76. But before we address that question, I do want to say that some of this is in development, and the strategy and planning around certain things like fees for operating on the chain and whatnot are still very, very much in flux. But that said, would you like to talk a little bit about the concept of fees for transactions, Doc? Obviously, at this point in time, these are operating on a feeless structure because we can control that. Any thoughts on that in general?
Yeah, I think it's one of the places where I have thoughts. A number of other people in the company have thoughts. So what I say is just my thoughts, but I think it does. It should reflect the spirit of what we want to do, right? Number one, we don't want it to be like certain blockchains which make it totally unusable because the fees are so high. That's obviously not where we want to go. That's why we always say that we're gaming first and then blockchain. And so using a framework like we're using that doesn't have a concept of gas, it doesn't have a concept of how
Yep.
that trade-off uh, is to be it's to be defined. I would like to see a fee schedule that this is what it costs as of today. It costs this much for a bridge in, a bridge out. That costs this for a transfer. It costs this for you know, bundling a bunch of tokens
Uh, we
together.
we've lost audio, guys. So
Perfect.
yeah, no, I could hear you just fine, Doc, but something has happened. Paul,
Where did
how we
I
doing?
where did I get knocked off?
Oh, they've lost audio for all of us. No
Oh
sound.
no.
Oh dear. Oh, now
Oh,
we're
it's
back.
back now.
Okay.
So repeat everything. So let's see. We were
Repeat
talking
all the
about fees.
stuff.
So I'll try to TLDR it because I'm not sure exactly where we left off. But basically, we don't want it to be like other blockchains that make it unusable because of the fees. In my opinion, smart contracts are useless if you can't put all the logic and data in them and run them, you know, with a normal person's income. We're definitely not all whales. So the way we do that is The network we use, or the framework we use, doesn't have a concept of gas. So we get to say what the fees are, and we can balance them to make it work best for the game, and to still incentivize people to participate in the network and run peers in the network, and still adjust the price to make it be friendly to users. We do need to have an element of securing the network. That's another big reason for gas on networks like Ethereum. It's not just to pay the miners, it's also to prevent attacks. But with a permissioned network where you have an identity, I mean, you're playing a video game, you do have an identity, whether it's a handle or your little @ tag in whatever platform you're using, you have an identity, and you can get banned for doing bad things. Because things are on chain, just because you can get banned from a game doesn't mean that the assets can be taken, which is part of the key of doing it in blockchain. But it doesn't mean that everyone has the freedom to attack the games or the chain and not be limited in doing that. So we have more dials we can twist to adjust pricing to always be within reach, the transaction pricing, and also the attacks against the network without needing to just have gas be insane. So I know that's not too specific, but just know that gas isn't a thing. I would like to see a menu of transactions saying that this cost this much, minting cost this, bridging cost
Yeah.
this,
The-
filling up your tank cost this, and it can be adjusted.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely the direction that things should go. I also, one of the ideas that I've been thinking a lot about is having sort of scaling transaction fees based on the number of transactions you yourself are emitting. So for example, if you're playing a game and you have normal gameplay level transactions, then that should be almost, if not completely free. But if it's getting to the point where you're clearly going beyond playing a game and into, I don't know, doing something that has the potential of crapping up the chain, then those transaction fees should escalate to the point where that becomes prohibitive to prevent bad actors from, causing problems.
I think it's a lot like, I mean, there's many applications that have usage tiers, right? Where there's going to be a usage tier that's free or good for the common person that just casually plays. And when you get into the thousands of transactions a day because you're making a business out of it, well, that probably means that you can afford to pay the network for doing all that extra work for you to support your business. Um, but it doesn't mean that we want to hit the average player with that when they just want to casually, crush some town.
Awesome. So I'm going to answer some questions that are a little bit more abstract here. And again, massive note that this is some of this is still subject to change and influx. Um, will the chain itself run eventually off of founders nodes? Yes, ultimately they are going to play a role in this. They're going to be very important, as we have said since the very beginning. Founders nodes are, essentially, the big tent pole that hold up the entire ecosystem. So there's going to be a lot more going on that. Let's see. And that answers Rick Rose. This Town Crush is a completely different game from Townstar, and it could have its own different NFTs. Or we could give some utility to Townstar NFTs, and that I think is that could be fun too, just for fun. The phone client will not be acting as a node for the chain in this case. What else? With Townstar Auto Sell, we need something else to grind in the background. I think you could make it a pretty fun mini game inside of Townstar itself. I like that as an idea. What do you think about that, Warren?
Yeah, I mean,
We have to
frankly,
get.
I was just so
Go ahead.
I was just telling somebody this morning I had that I had that exact experience. I was waiting for stuff to happen in Townstar, so I fired a Town Crush over here on the side and just played that while I was waiting for something to build up so I could sell it. So it seems like the
Right?
perfect thing to fill in the blanks.
It absolutely does seem like the perfect thing. I think that's super cool too, because you could potentially give other utility to town there as well to get extra extra executioners and things like that. And let's see. People want a lottery. I don't think we can do lotteries, guys. I'm sorry. Big Daddy T, the company itself is US based, but there's a lot going on. We're a global team of over 300 now. Let's see. And people want us to do some voiceover work. Should we do some voiceover work? People want to hear us say apparently sweet, divine, delicious, and things like that.
God.
Okay.
It's a funny story from the beginnings of this. So I put together a prototype of the game, I just to show that we could do it, sort of thing. It was really hacky, and let's just say that I grabbed a bunch of stuff off the internet to fill in the graphics and sounds and all that kind of stuff, and we had those voices in there, delicious, tasty, and all that kind of stuff. And people around the company were constantly asking me, "Is that you? Did you record yourself?"
I was asking that too. I was like, wow, is that Warren?
We sound so professional.
So professional. Okay, guys. When will be the official release? What official release? Is there going to be an official release here, guys? I think this was kind of an official soft release, no?
Yeah, I mean, this is the test. I mean, if they're asking about the full version,
we've officially released a test. That's what this is.
yeah, no, that is out there. That is what we intended to ship. But yeah, if they're asking about the full version of Town Crush, that's not going to be anytime soon.
MJ Traders Inc. wants to see my beard. I'm sorry, I'm not on camera today because I am in St. George, Utah right now. I am speaking at a TEDx event tomorrow, and I do not have my camera here, so I'm just posted up in a hotel room, living off of energy drinks and beef jerky right now, which is probably not good for me. But here it is. I will show you my beard in a selfie from the stage tomorrow. How about that?
I see some people asking about how long. I think we were just planning to run it for about a week, if I remember correctly. Is that still the case? Does anyone know differently?
That's
I do not know differently. I think people will be sad if we turn it off, though. I don't like making people sad, so I don't know. It's up to you guys.
I mean, you make plans, and then depending on how the crowd feels, sometimes those plans change. Who knows?
Yeah, one never knows. Crypto Brewery wants to hear Benefactor saying you fucked it up when you lose. I think I could get behind that.
We got told that the give up button was too mean. That was one of the comments, that it's too mean to tell someone, like, you're giving up. And so maybe that's what we need. We need to have like a different game mode. Like, one's very soft and gentle, like you can do better, and the other one's Benefactor screaming at you because you lost the level. Is that something
Coffee is for closers? Coffee is for closers.
Is that like a skin pack that we need to do? Is that the thing?
Yeah, we need like a Benefactor voice pack.
The emotionally supportive gameplay pack.
Yeah, you get the Bucks pack and you got the Benefactor pack.
Oh, there you go. That's perfect. You can just get her. I know she's listening to this right now. You can do it. It's okay. Try again next time. And then, you fucked it up. Why'd you do that? Yeah. Give it up to get good. I like it.
I responded that we were that whole give up thing, we were actually gonna word it as walk away like a weakling, but it just doesn't fit on the button, so.
Yeah, it's just too much text.
Yeah, got to make compromises.
Plus, you got localization issues. It's a whole mess.
Bucks is in chat right now saying she is listening and that she doesn't sound like that. Don't make me do the voice. I will do the voice. I will do the voice. We had a leadership conference once, and she sent a deck, and she was not able to make the conference because she lives on the wrong side of the planet. And so she sent this deck, and I actually did voiceover for the entire deck, and it was it did not make her happy. The next day she sent a video because somebody recorded me doing my voice of her, and it just wasn't, it was terrible. But Sarah knows that I love her. She's amazing. We would not be where we are if it was not for her. Don't make me do the voice, T-Bone. Anyway, onward, guys. Let's see. Any other question? People really want the voice packs. We actually should do that. Should get together, just go into a studio and do it. It would be a lot of fun. I know it's an awful impression, Squidry. Go ahead.
It could also be fun to have like a feed of random Discord comments of just like, because when you see people playing spider tanks, they start to chit chat in the channel about, you know, this round and, you know, oh, what are you doing? If there was just a stream of either, you know, support or negativity towards your gameplay based on actual Discord feedback, that would be a bit intense.
I think it would be awesome. Oh no. When Law Crush, the Law Tank is now observing this as well. Terrible.
If Jesse had his way, we'd law the entire world. The whole gaming catalog would be law tank something.
It's just law tanks.
Yeah, which honestly is not a terrible idea.
The Town Crush icons would be absolutely terrible because they'd just be different types of paper that all look basically identical. And you have to, oh man, that would be a terrible game to play.
Yeah, but to the truly discerning law eye, it's obvious.
Right. And yes, that is not me. You get a KYC and you get a KYC. Okay, guys. Let's see. Any other questions, though? I see Flarn Rules asking about IBC implementation. I don't have any thoughts on that. Maybe you do, Doc.
I don't have any thoughts on that right now. No.
Yeah, I do not as well. Does Gala Chain launch immediately after the GYRI test? There's going to be a little bit of a delay there, but there's a lot moving in that direction, guys. It's just we can't say some of it right now because some of the plans are, well, to be honest, some of the plans still don't have the law tank track of approval yet. So to wait for that.
The tank tread of approval.
They thought that was an Aussie? Not an Aussie. Come on, guys. Okay. This is a question for you, Warren. What inspired you to choose this type of game? This is from Silent Night.
I actually didn't choose it. That was Benefactor.
That's true. I want to match 3.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. There was an all hands meeting, and he was talking about something, and he kind of, in mid-sentence, he kind of had this thought, and he's like, we should have a match 3 game. You know, that he carried on talking about whatever he was talking about. And you know, a couple of us picked up on that, and that's kind of where this started snowballing from. So really, it's Eric's fault.
All Benefactor's fault. And yes, nothing we say has approval from Law Tank, obviously. Awesome, guys. Well, if there are no other questions, I think we can go ahead and get close to wrapping it up here, and pick it up again at a future time. Any last things that you guys would like to say?
I guess just to remind everyone that once you finish the 12 levels, that's not the end of it. We need you to keep smashing on the game and make GYRI cry if you can. That's the whole goal here.
There you go. So get your friends
don't
involved.
Stop. Don't stop
get your
playing.
Friends
Just
involved.
keep matching.
Yeah, I like the idea of the executioner chicken runs. Just get enough stars to buy all the executioner chickens and just do an entire round with that, and that'll really help us actually.
Perfect.
That's tons of transactions. That's good stuff.
Awesome, guys. Well, let's go ahead and close it out, and we'll catch up with you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Jason Bitbender Brink, the Doc Jarvis, and Warren Marshall from Gala Games. You guys have a fantastic day. Peace.